Welcome. D. McClung here. Archer Monologues. That's where I talk and you listen. Or not. Your choice. Free country. Well, it's not a free country. But, you know, we can say it. The problem is if you believe it's a free country, you're a fool. If you say it and you would just wish that it was a free country, like it's supposed to be, then you're probably more alert than most people. Alright. Like, for example, it's a free country. I have the right to say free speech and expression, free expression. And I can say what I want and do what I want, and, you know, the government doesn't bother me. You know, I have the right to say what I want, and you have the right to, like, not agree with me. Or you have the right to say, gee, what you just said makes sense. It's, like, logical. There's no falsehood to it. There's no lie to it. There's no illogical, irrational, stupid shit to it. It's just true. Because, like, the sky is up. And you think, the sky is up. That man's a fucking genius. About the world, the earth, the planet we live on is like round or spherical and not freaking flat. And other things like, there's no law making the average American liable for the income tax. That's true. That's not debatable, really, because, you know, the evidence, the facts, the documentation, the actual laws in the tax codes, the statutes, etc., actually say, this tax doesn't belong to you, pal. It says, this tax is on corporations. This tax is on privileges. That is to say, if you exercise a privilege, that could be taxable. Because, let's say, people, let's do it this way. A person who engages in a privilege can be taxed on the income from that privilege, that exercise of that privilege. It's what the law says. It's not like debatable here. Seriously, read it yourself. You know, if you're going to read the law, like federal law, for example, you're going to have some knowledge of English and the rules that the government uses to, you know, express the laws. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand what the words mean. And words mean what they mean, except in the government, when they're making laws, they change the meanings of words, and they don't mean what you think they mean anymore. For example, the word person. If you hear the word person, and you're not educated and enlightened as to the dirty tricks of the government when it comes to words like person, you would think, a person, that's like a human being, a me, like you and me and, you know, my next door neighbor and my mother. In the law, and it's pretty much a requirement in the law, is in America anyway. If you say something in a law and you use a word and you use it with another meaning than the word that you would commonly associate with that word, then you have to put that in the law so that people know that you're not using the word in common usage. You're just making up a different meaning for the word. You're just inventing a different definition. Now, I'm not kidding you, and I'm not jerking around here. I'm not bullshitting you. I'm telling you the truth. That's just true. Probably every lawyer ever, in this country, in America, knows that what I just said is absolutely true. If you've ever read a law out of the codes, U.S. codes, legal codes, if you've ever read any of those, you know that that's true. And I'll give you an example. And just look at any law. Even look in West Virginia laws, for example, if you're in West Virginia, or wherever state you live in. I looked in West Virginia law the other day. And it says, here's the law, here's the law, here's the law. And the first part of that law, it says, here are definitions of words used in the law. It has a section actually called definitions of the words used in this law. So it'll say, for example, the definition of the word law, is law. The definition of the word, let's say, obscenity, or the word, in the federal codes, like, for example, I'll just give an example straight on. In the U.S. code, the laws, federal laws, and it says in Title, which one is it? I think maybe this, I don't want to be wrong, but let's just say Title 26. All right. See, sometimes I get confused. 21, 26, 21, 26, 21, 26. Okay. Let's just say the tax codes, particularly the income tax code. And it says, and I quote, I might be off a word or two because I'm not looking at it right now. You see what I'm saying? And I don't have a photographic memory. I'm good, but I'm not perfect. All right? Which is why you should not just take my word for it. Now, when I say don't take my word for it, that doesn't mean argue with me. That means look it up your own damn self. Don't be a lazy bones. Make an effort, because I can teach you, or you could do the more impressive thing. You could learn. Let me go through that again. Teaching is cool. That's awesome. To teach someone something that they don't know is awesome. Particularly if you teach them the truth. If you teach them the right way to do stuff, or the right thing, or the right process of doing something, for example. Teaching is cool. And I'm a teacher. However, I don't put myself up there on some sort of pedestal like, I'm like the great and wonderful wizard of teaching. Oz. You know what that means. You understand what that is, right? I'm the great and wonderful Wizard of Oz. I'm the teacher behind the curtain. Oops. Just a guy. But teaching's cool. The trouble with the word teaching in today's society, I'll get back to the other one in a minute. Just hold on there. The trouble with the word teaching in America today is that, all the teachers are really not teachers. They're brainwashers. They're indoctrinators. They're liars. Now, I've just indicted, what, every teacher in America? No. I'm not saying every teacher in the country is a liar. I'm not. I am, in a sense, an unofficially. I'm not employed by Marion County Board of Education, for example. Free and independent teacher. And I teach things that, are important. And I don't teach bullshit. I don't teach you, for example, I saw this on the internet last night on Facebook, I think it was. This little video about, slavery, freeing the slaves, etc. And it. I'm not going to publicize what the video was about. That's not important. Well, it is important to them, but so on. But then what I'm going to talk about here now is the fact that this video, the person who made the video put stuff in the video and said stuff in the video that's like totally not true, and in fact straight out blatant lie, and which kind of doesn't look good for the cause that these people were promoting. Kind of makes them look like fools. So I had to teach them. I had to teach them the truth. And I'm sure that they probably didn't appreciate that, because usually people that believe lies don't like being shown the truth and the error of their ways, because people are stubborn. As a general rule, not necessarily always. I'm stubborn, and I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that, because stubborn is a good thing sometimes. For example, I am stubborn when it comes to, being free. Yeah, I'm going to be free, damn it, or else. Da-da! So anyway, I haven't forgotten about what I started out with about the meaning of words and so on, which is a continuation of yesterday's show, by the way. So the video and the informational video was to educate us, teach us something, and it was about black folk and about black history and all that stuff, and slavery and freeing the slaves and so on. And the video said some things that were, let me just put it this way: it wasn't true, and it was one of those commonly misunderstood situations. And they said, and like I say, I'm paraphrasing or trying to come somewhat close to what the quote what it said, but here's basically what it said. The video said, Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Now this was, and it said something else which I thought was interesting. It took like 2 years or 3 years, 2 years, maybe 3 years. I think I said 2 years. It took 2 years for news of the slaves being freed by Abraham Lincoln, which took place in 1863, when he, quote unquote, freed the slaves. It took 2 years for that news to get to Texas, where there were, quite a few slaves. If I recall correctly, it said something like 200,000 slaves, and we're talking about the brown-skinned, black-skinned people. Okay. Now, I can't use the N-word, but that would be just disgusting. I'm talking about the N-word Negro. I'm not talking about the other slang word, which is a slur and disgusting. Which, by the way, I'm not afraid to say, if it's used in context, it is legitimate. If it's used as a slang, insulting term, it's rude and disgusting. And I've never used it that way, by the way. I have used the word to say the word in order to tell you what the word is I'm thinking about, because just saying the N-word, quote unquote, the N-word is, well, that's become common today, but there are actually people that don't know what you mean when you say that. Believe it or not, there are people that, I said, hey, don't say the N-word, and that person that I was talking to says, I don't know what word you're talking about. What do you mean? What N-word are you talking about? Noodles? I mean, what? What N-word? Because they're just that far out of reality. Or out of touch with present day common speak. So anyway. Okay, so now we have this statement made as if it were a fact. One, Abraham Lincoln and the Great Emancipation Proclamation. Oh, by the way, proclamation, that's like an executive order. Executive order, that's not legislation. That wasn't something from Congress. That was something Abraham Lincoln said, you know what, I'm just going to proclaim something. Like I'm God. So he signs an executive order saying, all the slaves should be free. Okay? From this day forward, all the slaves should be free. There's only one catch in that theory that it's all the slaves. What? All the slaves in the world? What? Abraham Lincoln emancipated all the slaves everywhere, including, England and France and Germany and Portugal, China. No. Some of you folks might think Abraham Lincoln was a god, or a saint, mistakenly, by the way, because he weren't a god or a saint. In fact, quite the opposite, if you ask me. But I know details about this guy that you maybe don't know, because you are not educated. Maybe you haven't been taught the truth about Abraham Lincoln. Maybe you've been taught some bullshit, lie, propaganda, nonsense, like the fact, like you think, oh yeah, I was taught that Abraham Lincoln freed all the slaves. Didn't. No, didn't happen. So let me explain. The executive order that he signed and issued freed slaves in the states of the Confederacy. Now, if you will know the meaning of the concept of the seceding from the Union and therefore not being part of it anymore, which the southern states did. Now, I'll tell you the truth. I think it's odd to some degree that it was all the states that seceded were like in the South. Virginia. What? Virginia? You mean Virginia is in the South? Not really. If you know where the line is, Virginia was actually in the North. Very close to Washington, D.C., by the way. So, he issues a proclamation, which is simply an executive order, which is simply saying, I'm the president, and I'm going to say, hey, all the slaves in the southern Confederate States, I say southern so you'll know, kind of proximity where they were, even though Virginia was not in the southern states. I guess they related more to the southern states, but one of the original states, by the way. All right. So, I issue a proclamation, I declare with an executive order, a presidential signing statement, that all the slaves in the southern states of the Confederacy, the ones that have seceded from the Union, are free slaves. Free, 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 free. They're free. You're free now. Okay, number one, that didn't include the slaves in the North. That is to say, in the Union states. The ones that didn't secede. Like, Pennsylvania, New York. Those slaves weren't freed by Lincoln's proclamation. Are you paying attention? Duh. Now, just between you and me, and I remember, even though it's been quite a number of years ago, I remember being in high school, and I remember American history class, and I remember the teacher saying, read the book. And I read the book, and guess what? Well, I didn't read it really, really well because, actually I read it, and then, I read it like clear through, and then in the beginning, like the first week of school, and I said, I know all that stuff in the book, and then they gave me a test on like chapter 1, and I'm like, what the frick? Stupid people. And I didn't even have internet back then. That's back in the ancient times, before the internet. Gee, I wish we had internet back then. Anyway, proclamation. Well, they neglected to tell us, or neglected to teach the people who were students at the time, that Abraham Lincoln issued a proclamation that, pretty much just said, all the slaves in the southern states, Confederacy states. Kind of neglected to mention that in history class back in the 60s. Sometimes people just boggle my mind. And it took 2 years for the slaves in Texas to get the news that they were free. All right. By the way, 63. That was just before Abraham Lincoln got assassinated. We won't get into that. We won't talk about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, because some people dearly love him and would be hurt if they found out the truth about that. Okay. So anyway, no. Abraham Lincoln didn't free all the slaves, even in the North or in China or England or anywhere else. He just said, okay, a tactic. Let's see, what can we do? We got a war going on here that we started. I mean, Abraham Lincoln started it, and bastard. Anyway, I'm going to free all the slaves in the South. You think that'll help us win the war against these renegades, these rebels? Yeah, probably. Well, okay, we'll free all the slaves in the South then. Yeah, all you people in New York that are slaves, yeah, fuck you. You're going to stay a slave. I'm paraphrasing Abraham Lincoln here when I said that. Just imagine Abraham Lincoln, he's president. Just picture him as being like, Donald Trump, or looking like Donald Trump. You're still slaves. You fuckers are still slaves. Sorry, not really. Let me quote another thing from Abraham Lincoln. Quote. I'm going to paraphrase the quote, okay? Because I don't have it right in front of me, and I don't want to be accused of not saying things right, because don't have a photographic memory. But let's say, here's what Abraham Lincoln said. I have no intentions of giving the Negro equal status with the whites, or giving them the vote. Stuff like that. Oh yeah, there's your great Abraham Lincoln, the one you black folk and you African American folk. Oh, that's just silly. Anyway, that I adore, I worship this guy. He freed his slaves, Yeah. I can pretty much tell you that after he freed the slaves in the South, and even after 1868, isn't that ironic? 1868, the other slaves were all over America were freed by an act of Congress, not some president's word for it, but Congress. The ones that actually make the laws. Let's free all the slaves in the whole country. Okay, let's vote on that. Okay, gotta vote. Every bit of okay. Majority says, yep, free the slaves. All right. So let's just keep this straight. Teaching you what Abraham Lincoln actually said and what he actually thought and how he actually felt about the Negro. Well, that's a useful lesson. You don't have to take my word for it. Look it up. Seriously, look it up. Don't be lazy. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word for anything, damn it. Look it up. It's there. I found it. Oh, by the way, Columbus, asshole, prick, motherfucker. Anyway. Yeah, I was taught about that Columbus guy when I was in high school too. You know, American history, you know, Columbus, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Discovered America, yeah. Well, he didn't discover New York City. Nope. I'm thinking he discovered the Caribbean. In Mexico, maybe. Maybe Mexico. Maybe. Southern part. Anyway. I thought it was amusing because when, you know, he was like over here on the ships, you know, and his crew said, get off the boat, Captain. Chrissy, old boy, get off the boat. You're going to stay here on this place where the natives are, and we're leaving. Bye. I think that was Christopher Columbus. They kind of abandoned him there, you know, like at the mercy of the natives. Anyway, he did make it back to England, and he's a frickin' disgrace. But anyway, yeah, let's chop off some hands of some natives, some Native Americans, Native North Americans. Because they didn't bring me any gold. And, oh, by the way, there's some 10, 11-year-old girls. Maybe 12. Native American girls. Put those on the boat and put that when they're in my cabinet. I'm going to fuck her eyes out tonight. I'm not fucking around here, people. Christopher Columbus was a sicko. Do I need to say the P word here? Alright, so maybe they were pubescent. Maybe they weren't actually children. You know, those people that are like prepubescent, haven't reached the age of puberty yet, are not adolescents. By the way, adolescents are not children. Alright, we'll get to, I covered that yesterday. In yesterday's show. Children under 12, after that, you're not a child. Unless you're talking about someone's offspring, you know, like spawn, like somebody's, you know, baby that popped out of mom and dad, you know, out of mom's womb. That would be their child, the parent's child, not my child, because I didn't have the baby. All right, so do we have that straight now? Teaching, learning. I can teach all day, but if you don't learn anything, then you're still ignorant of what I was teaching you. Here's the rule of thumb. Better to learn than to be taught. It is the learning person who should be admired, not the teacher. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a little admiration for someone who taught you something. But then I would be bragging about myself, wouldn't I? I would be saying, oh, you should admire me for teaching you stuff. And I don't want that glory. Thanks anyway, but I don't. I just want you to think and use your brain. Learn. Take what I say as an inspiration to do more study, more research, more learning on your own. That's the point, is what I'm saying. All right. So, Abraham Lincoln said some nasty stuff, which they neglected to put in the textbooks when I was in high school, by the way. And some people today, even today, some, you know, stubborn, ignorant, stupid people think, oh yeah, Abraham Lincoln, great guy. Yeah, sorry. Not. Well, for one thing, he murdered a lot of his own people, so to speak. If you consider the southern states still a part of his people, yeah. But tens of thousands of innocent people were murdered by this guy, or directed to be murdered by this guy. I'm sorry, that's almost borders on genocide. Abraham Lincoln, yeah, your hero. Think about it. You get me? All right. So the guy, I'm sorry. Oh, one more thing about it. Didn't I mention it yesterday? I don't remember. West Virginia was created by Abraham Lincoln by another one of his proclamations. Just issued a proclamation. Divide Virginia off. The western part of Virginia, let's just divide it with an imaginary line on the map and say all the people on this side and all the lands on this side of Virginia, we are going to just make that a federal property, federal territory. We're going to separate it from Virginia, which it was a part of until Lincoln said, let's just make that a part of the United States. Really? So basically, West Virginia is a U.S. federal territory, like Guam or the actually Hawaii, which is another story entirely, where the United States actually invaded that sovereign country and murdered about 40,000 native people and stole Hawaii from the people that owned it and slaughtered people, like genocide against the Hawaiians. So, no, Hawaii is not a state. It's a white people state, like from America, from the United States territory. But it's not really a state, because I doubt very seriously if those 40,000 dead Hawaiians that the United States, Navy invaded, thanks to President Fool, Idiot, Disgusting Scumbag McKinley, sent into Hawaii in 1893 and, destroyed the country, its democracy, so to speak. Yeah, democracy. Let's call it a free country, until the United States government decided it would help the Christian missionaries take over the country. Christian missionaries who were very heavily invested in the sugarcane crop and who wanted a monopoly on it, since they've already, taken over the sugarcane crops of Cuba and some other southern hemisphere, Caribbean, whatever. So, I'm just saying, Christian missionaries, by the way, just remember that. Put that in your head. Christian missionaries caused the murder of roughly 40,000 Hawaiians, innocent men, women, and children. And the rest is history. And you didn't read that in the fucking history book in high school, did you? Nope. Probably not. After all, I didn't learn it until a few years ago, when I actually did some research and ran across this fact about, McKinley, the president, the idiot, who actually sent some Navy troops to frickin' Hawaii to murder those people for the cause of the, Christian missionaries who wanted to own the islands so they could, have a monopoly on sugarcane. Think of that the next time you put some sugar in your tea. All right. Now we'll segue back to what I started out with. Words mean what they mean. This is not just something I made up. This is true. So in the laws, see, I segued back to where I started in the first place. The laws put the definition of the words in the law if the law, or if the persons, the Congress making the laws, mean the word to mean something else than what we actually commonly know it to mean, like child, then they have to put the definition that they're using in the word, in the law that they're writing. For example, in Title 18, the law, child, it means a minor, someone under 18. All of this is fabricated nonsense, just made up out of thin air because they're like fucking tyrants, bullies, and assholes. Yeah, we can do that. So they just define the word as child as a minor person under a minor human being under the age of 18. It's made it up. It's not true. Certainly not true in science or biology or even in culture or reality. It's just they just made it up. Excuse me. But let's talk about the income tax. The word person, and it's defined in the income tax codes. A person, for the here's a quote, for the purposes of the income tax. That means everything that has anything to do with the income tax in the law, everything in the law that has anything to do with the income tax, the word person is defined as a corporation. So anytime you see the word person in the laws concerning the income tax, you just substitute the word corporation for the word person, because that's what they mean. That's what the law is. And they give you that definition right in the beginning. Definitions of words used in this law. One of the words used in this law is person. Here's the definition of the word person. The definition of the word person is a corporation. So in the law, the income tax law, when they want to say, they use the word person, they say a U.S. person, meaning a U.S. corporation. And corporations engaged in privileged activities, not rightful activities. You follow me? The word person in the income tax codes means corporation. So anytime the word person appears in the income tax code law, you think, it says a U.S. person is liable for the income tax, for example. And you think in your head, you translate the word to mean what they said it means in the law, because that's what it is. That's the law. That's the way it works. So if the law says something about a U.S. person, it means, a U.S. corporation, because that's what the law tells you to do. You have to follow the rules of the law. So if U.S. persons are liable for the income tax, then guess what? Not me, because I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a corporation, and I'm not engaging in a privileged activity. By the way, Dave Champion's book. Yeah, I'm pimping the book because it's a damn good book, and it's a big book, and it's got a lot of information in it, and it's all pretty accurate as far as I can tell. Because I have the ability to research things and prove it to myself that, oh, yeah, that's true because that's what it said. So Dave Champion puts in a book, hey, the word person means corporation. That's because he's researched that, and I researched him, what he researched, and I said, yeah, that's what it says. The law defines the word person as a corporation. Duh, case closed, in the story. We know what that means now. So every time you see the word person in the tax law, it means corporation. Not me, not you. because I'm not a corporation. So, as far as child is concerned, in Title 18, it says a child is defined as a person under. Now, the word person isn't defined as a corporation in Title 18 because that word is defined as a corporation in Title 26, not Title 18, because it doesn't say that. It says, because it doesn't define the word person in Title 18 as a corporation, only in the tax code, not in the other one. So we use the dictionary definition of the word person in Title 18. And so they make up this definition and put it in the freaking Title 18 codes, saying a child is, the word child means a minor, someone under 18. Someone under, see, I got around the person thing by just saying someone. Someone who's under 18. Which is totally fabricated because nature doesn't recognize numbers. You don't find, the number 18, tattooed on the freaking forehead of some kid that's been alive for 18 years. Unless he wants to put a tattoo on his head saying that, but that'd be silly. But anyway. Alright, I'm going to stop now. I've made the message clear. I presented it. It's there. If you don't believe it, that's fine. Look it up for yourself, and then you will believe it if you're smart enough to understand what you found out when you research something. Which will be the same thing I researched and found out, because that's the way it works. Alright. So child is a fabricated definition in the tax code, in the Title 18. It means a minor. But why don't they just say minor? Because then they have to define minor, and then it's the same thing, except they wanted to codify the word child and make child a legal term. Which before that, it wasn't. That's how it works. Alright. You can dwell on what I've just said. In fact, I recommend you play it again 2 or 3 more times. Listen to it very carefully, what I said. You got a problem with that? You shouldn't. But if you have a question, you're free to ask. There's a little section down below that you can make a comment. So if you have a question, oh, by the way, use the comment section on, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on YouTube or on my website or on my Spreaker.com site. If you have a question, ask a question. I will do my best to answer the question. If it's a valid, sane question, I'll try to answer it. But don't go on my websites and don't go on my YouTube channel and so on and put comments like, I'm going to argue with you, you dumbass, because that'll get you booted right off. Just gone. History. Seriously. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to teach. Or, put it a better way, I'm here to provide some information for you to think about, study, research, and come to the same conclusion. Because it's the only conclusion. Alright, catch you later. D. McClung, Archer Monologues. I'm not going to play the theme song going out. Alright, okay. I'm done for now. Talk to you later. Have a good day. Well, try. Catch you later.